unfortunately, we don't give that much credence or emphasis in much of our Christian tradition. You see, when it comes to metaphors, God is much more like a mother or a mother hen than God is like a mighty warrior. If you look at the original language in some of the scriptures, for instance, the Lord's Prayer, if you look at the Aramaic, Our Father who art in heaven, and we recited that together today. Actually, in the original language, it would be more correctly translated something like Our Parent who art in heaven, or Our Father and Mother who art in heaven. Now listen to one commentator's introduction to the Lord's Prayer. O birther, mother and father of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. O birther, mother and father of the cosmos. Now I'll ask you a very simple question. Which of the sexes gives birth? The mother. Now there may come a time in this crazy world with all of our scientific achievements that the father can give birth. Right now it doesn't happen. So when we talk about the God who gives birth, we're definitely talking about a feminine concept. And there's a lot of rich language which talks about being born of the Spirit and so forth. And I find it interesting that the fundamentalists who often use this language, like you have to be born again, they're very insistent on being born again. That's a feminine image. You can't be born of a man, you're born of a woman. So the scripture which they emphasize you have to be born again points to a feminine image of God. But God forbid, lest anyone would call God a she or refer to God as a she. I don't get it, but that's the way it is. So I want to remind you of that very rich metaphor in the Bible and remind you that God is like a good mother, and good mothers are God-like. They're God-like because they generate life. They give birth to life. They make something out of nothing. I think I mentioned before that one of the roles my mother played in her life is that she was a magician. She could make something out of nothing. There was never anything to eat. And all of a sudden, there it was. And we had 4 kids, and my mother was a stay-at-home mom, and we were on a budget, but she could always make something appear. That was wonderful. Mothers are like that. They make something out of nothing. And more than that, they make people who feel like they are nothing feel like they're someone or that they're something. They have a way of validating people, of loving people to life, of generating life, of encouraging, of nurturing. And this is a very special kind of love, this mother love, that flows from the mother spirit. And this morning, briefly, I want to talk about some high water marks, some qualities of this beautiful mother love. And in some ways, I think it mirrors what I know to be divine love, this mother love. 3 things. First, this mother love is instinctive. Secondly, it's indiscriminate. And thirdly, it's indefinite. First, it's instinctive. Where I live in the village on the north end of Longboat Key here, we have peacocks. Right now we have about 60 or 70. I hear they want to cull the herd or the flock and take it down to about a dozen. That's fine. 60 or 70 is great with me. We love the peacocks. We love everything about them. But I can understand why some people want to cull the herd a little bit. But I've also heard they want to make it illegal to feed the peacocks. Possibly in one's own yard. I find that odd as well, that it would be illegal to feed birds in your own yard. But that's what we do in our society. We criminalize behavior. Have a problem? Criminalize it. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, these peahens, I see them walking around. They had like 4 or 5 or 6 little babies. And it's amazing to watch these things. It's like they have radar. They move along. They're cognizant of everyone. They know right where they're at. They know how to move them, how to herd them, how to protect them. It's just this instinctual thing that's so amazing when I look at the animal kingdom. This fiercely protective and nurturing love that animals have, that mothers have for their babies. And you know, even the most docile animal becomes so fierce if you get between it and its baby. There is a relentless tenderness to this mother's love. It's a love that never gives up. It never quits working for or believing in. It never quits nurturing. And I like to say that mothers are nurturers by nature. It is a love which is tough but tender. It is sensitive and yet it's firm and resilient. It's not necessarily what we would define as effeminate. It's tough but tender. And I think it's interesting that Mother's Day itself was originally identified with the anti-war movement. And these women who were involved in the anti-war movement were women of iron resolve and incredible passion and courage for peace and justice. It's that kind of love. It's an image of motherhood which we don't get often in our society. In fact, when Russell and I were trying to select hymns for Mother's Day, we had a difficult time getting any that went beyond the role of women or mothers as homemakers, which is now, in our society, an archaic idea. I mean, there are almost no traditional families left in our society. When I say traditional, I'm talking about the birth mother and the birth father at home with their children, where the father goes off to work and the mother stays home with the kids. That's almost a dinosaur now. Not that homemaking is not a high and holy calling. I believe being a homemaker is probably the most sacred calling that any parent could perform, or especially any mother. And I know when I was married with my first wife, we made the decision together that she would stay home with the children because we thought it was important. And I think that's one of the missing pieces right now in our society, that parents don't have the opportunity or privilege to stay home with their kids. And it was a sacrifice even then, because my wife was very employable and we chose to survive on a minister's salary and raise our children. And I'm glad we did. I think it paid off in many ways. But the fact is that most women aren't at home anymore. Women have moved from the bedroom to the boardroom. In fact, we're even considering a female president. Or maybe we're not anymore. I haven't watched the news in the last few days. The fact is, wherever mothers are, whatever role they serve, whatever work they do, they are hardwired to stand in for and stand up for their children. It's their nature. It's instinctive. A love which won't give up, and a love which won't let go. And secondly, this mother's love, which is born of the mother's spirit, is not only instinctive, it's indiscriminate, it's unconditional. There are no preferences or prejudices. If you were to ask a mother, and I find this interesting, who has more than one child, which child is your favorite? You know what they'll tell you? Each one is my favorite. And I love each one in a very special way. And they will go on to elucidate the very special qualities of every child. A mother's love is indiscriminate that way. I like to say it's like God's love in that it's unconditional. It's not I'll love you if, or I'll love you when. It's I'll love you in spite of. And this isn't blind love. This is love with its eyes wide open. This is love saying, I know you, I know all your strengths, I know your beauty, I know all the good things about you, and I know all the warts and wrinkles, and I will love you anyway.